You went to
Oh man.
school for photography, no?
Yeah. I went to school for photography, graduated in 2008.
What made
So
you want to switch over to like movies?
I fell into it. So I graduated college and I had some interviews lined up. I'll give you a short version. But I always imagined myself being in New York, working as a photography assistant in some studio, doing some
Really?
editorial work or something. But when I graduated in 2008, it was right when there was like the big financial crisis of 2008.
Really?
And if you remember that, I don't know if you're old enough
Yeah,
to
yeah,
remember that,
yeah.
but it was an awful time to be trying to look for work. So before I even graduated, I had a couple interviews lined up. There were a couple photography connections, and I had done some internships down in college. I met some people, and they're like, "Oh, come up to New York. I have some people who I can hook you up with." And I was pretty excited. Things seemed hopeful. Then I graduated, show up in New York, and it was literally like everybody was, "Oh, the person who you were supposed to meet, they're gone. We had to fire them." It was
Wow. So
pretty.
you actually went to New York, like you showed up
I showed
in
up for some
person.
interviews. Yeah, I didn't have nothing like a job promise, but it was, oh yeah, when you graduate, come up. We'll interview you. Had some, things lined up, but nothing panned out. Everybody was kind of shutting their doors. Everybody was like, "Oh, we're restructuring. We got to wait to see how
Oh,
what's good, the fallout's going to happen." So it didn't seem very possible, and I didn't want to go to New York without a job lined up because it's one of the most expensive places to live. I
yeah.
had seen some people who were sleeping in closets, just to try to make it rent, like that's all they could afford.
That's crazy.
So I had a friend from college who was in LA, and it seemed like we had lived together before. We already knew that we were, pretty laid back in what it was like to live together. So he was looking for a roommate. I decided to just pack a couple bags. It seemed like even if I didn't have money, I'm sorry, yeah, if I didn't have a job lined up or too much money in my bank account, at least in LA, you could go to the beach and kill time.
Yeah.
Warm most of the year. You could just kind of, there was more things to do without a steady cash flow than in New York. It seemed a little bit more tougher to get by. So yeah, I packed a couple bags, went to LA, and just kind of hit the ground like every day, going out, dropping off my resume at different photography studios. I got a couple freelance gigs and a couple internships again.
But at this point, your goal is to get into photography still.
Yeah, get into photography. But anyway, long story short, it was pretty tough still. As I'm sure trying to go out without experience of getting a steady job.
Yeah.
It
And
was
even then,
pretty,
like this was before LinkedIn and stuff, like I had
yeah,
it easy, man.
yeah, no LinkedIn. Like I said, just dropping off resumes in a front door or connections and trying to call your buddies, being like, "Do you have any work for me?" And I was doing all right, but I was still working like a couple part-time jobs,
I was gonna say,
like everybody
yeah,
else. But it's what everybody else was doing, and it was a good time. I had some photography work, but then it was like my brother came out to LA, and he had a degree in visual effects, and he got a job doing the 3D conversion at at the company I'm working at now. Just like a little startup, I don't know, I'll say like 10 people in a room. So I, at this point, was still working like 4 or 5 jobs to pay my rent. And I started to see the kind of like the paychecks he was putting away working at this place. And being a recent graduate from college, I was like, wow, I've never seen a paycheck that looks like that. That looks kind of nice. So, he was like, this is so new, everything we're doing. We're just training people on the job anyway. Nobody really has experience in this industry of doing like 3D conversion. So if you want to, I could probably get you hired here. And at that time, it was just supposed to be like, oh yeah, I'll do it for like a couple months, and then I'll save up for some camera equipment, or I'll try to find another photography job.
Yeah, like and move on. So
Yeah, but
and this was like before all the movies were in 3D, right?
I mean, 3D's been around, but it's kind of been in ebb and flows. So this was kind of like before the big Marvel movie kind of breakout into 3D. That was kind of the big kind of push for 3D, was kind of once the Marvel movie started doing it. He got me in there, and I thought it was just going to be a couple, months. Like I said, like I'll just kind of save up some cash and then I'll bounce. But it was, once you get comfortable doing something, and it was pretty fun. Still had like that young energy, exciting energy to just stay all night. So it just stuck with me, and that it's just where I've been, and it's